Hey, all you experts out there, this is the Monetize Your Expertise podcast, where we show you how to use your skills to pay the bills. Have you ever wanted to create a business that positions you as the industry leader and go-to expert? Join me every week to hear from amazing leaders and entrepreneurs who have successfully refined their skills in order to become experts and create extremely profitable knowledge businesses. To find all of the links and tools mentioned in this episode, just go to myepodcast.com. I'm your host, Grant Weherley, the online course guy, helping you every week to monetize your expertise. Hey everybody, and welcome to Monetize Your Expertise. Today I'm here with Sotiris, founder, CEO of Eliademy.com, father of two girls, reader, traveler, curious soul searching for meaning. Thanks for joining me today, Sotiris.
Thank you very much, Grant, for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. And you're based in Finland, correct?
That's correct, in Helsinki.
Nice. I've actually heard really good things about there. I've known a couple friends who've traveled to specifically Helsinki before, but tell me a bit about your path into creating Eliademy. How did you end up doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the team that made Eliademy comes out of the rubbles of Nokia. During 2012, we had to ramp down the Nokia open source operations and lay off thousands of individuals. So we had to start something new. And we thought quite a bit, and we said that basically education is a very big industry, but also it has a meaning for us because we can do something that is global, something that has a purpose, and something that basically can, help society or humanity to go forward. So we decided that basically to concentrate our intellectual energy into something big as democratizing education with technology. And therefore, we created Eliademy.
Great stuff. And so you did that in 2012 or 2013, you said?
Yeah, in 2012, August, we started the company, but then we released the first version of the software February 11, 2013. So it took us 6 months to bring the actual service into the market as a minimum viable product back then.
Great stuff. And so when you were researching this idea, you were planning to launch this type of product. I'm sure you looked at, your competition. What's the supply? What's the demand? And I'm curious what your thoughts are about maybe the incumbent companies that you were trying to position yourself against or around or differently. How did you approach that when you first got started? Because I know there's at least a couple companies that were around a couple years before that. And I know at least for myself, if I was like, okay, I want to start an online education company like Eliademy, I'd be hesitant because of the existing companies that do that. So how did you guys approach that from the start?
That's a very good question, Grant. This is not the first time that I'm doing an educational service on the web. My very first one was when I was 24 in the year 96. And it was one of the very first electronic schools on the planet. A website with the artifact of the old content still available at odyssey.com.cui. .co.cui. But it was a failure. It was too early. The internet penetration in Cyprus, it was too low, and also the computer sales, they were too low. So the service was on the right time for the right purpose, but I will say that basically the internet penetration didn't help that much. So it was a failure. So in 2012, when we look into the competition, we found hundreds of e-learning platforms out there. One of the most popular ones, it was Moodle platform, but they were not cloud-based. They were a software that you download and install into your servers, and then you can offer that service within an environment, a university, or we saw that, within an open university or a corporation. Then we saw Coursera, where they were trying to democratize education, but from the oligarchy point of view, the point of view that basically only the MIT and the Harvard and only the prestige universities, they could create courses in order to democratize education. And then, of course, there was the very early example of Udemy, where with the very clever growth hacking and a very clever marketing, they did a quite good job on the English-speaking world on trying to sell video-based courses to consumers. So we saw all that, and we thought of that basically, okay, how do we position Eliademy into this competition? And what we found out was that there is a geometry where each services is trying to take a position and not being generic enough, where Eliademy can be generic enough to not put any limitations into the segments, into the type of users, into the type of content that we are receiving, and therefore becoming a tool to crowdsource the knowledge from every single individual out there that wants to share the knowledge with the others without imposing any limitations. And that worked very well for us. So at this point of time, Eliademy is doing content in cooperation with prestige universities like Aalto is among the top 500 universities in the world and others, the same way that Coursera does. But we do also content with universities that most probably you have never heard of. At the same time, we collect video-based courses the same way that Udemy does. But with Eliademy, you can do only a plain text course or only an audio course or a course with live web seminars, something that basically, for example, you cannot find in many other platforms. I know one example that I will talk about that one a little bit later. And the service is not limited into one computer infrastructure, like with the Moodle, but is a cloud-based service, so everybody can have access to it from any part of the world. And currently, as we speak, we do have more than 190 countries, users from 190 countries registering to the service daily.
So I find it quite interesting that through your story of your entrepreneurial journey took you, I guess, almost 20 years from when you first started looking at e-learning platforms to now, when you're currently running one successfully. So I'm curious what you learned from your first failed experience at it. I mean, obviously there's the timing issue as well, but I'm sure there's other things that you learned from that process, and maybe just being older, wiser, more experienced, that contributed to your success this time around as well. So what were the differences there?
Well, the difference was that basically I learned to be happy being second.
Interesting. So not being the number one tool in the industry?
Precisely. Because the one that basically it's on the front, it takes all the pain related to educating, spreading a message related to what he's trying to do, and he puts a lot of effort in order to bring the market to use his service.
Oh, I see. So you don't mean being number one at a given time, but being first, essentially, and the costs that are associated with that.
That's right, yeah. So being number two, you just follow the wave behind, and you can play the role of the catalyst, meaning that basically when you see that basically one particular element is not going to go according to your ideology or your wishes, you can try to disrupt that with some tactics. Or you can enjoy the benefit of taking the users that they are not satisfied with the number one player and they are looking for something alternative. And I think that basically this educational business is huge. I mean, 6-7 billion minds, they need to be educated. And within the next 10 years, we will see that basically those 7 billion minds will be registered electronically into one e-learning platform or another, and they will be receiving education online in a form of being the primary form of receiving information, or as in a hybrid, some mixture between a classroom and an online service. But nevertheless, kind of like that online service element will be part of the process. So in a 7 billion users population, if you get 1% of them, and that's approximately 60 million, within the next decade, you will have the equal power of approximately 600 universities. I don't know if you can follow my mathematics now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's actually like 60 million users. It's like a small country almost.
Yeah, well, yeah, 60 million users. I mean, if you put that, basically each university serves 10,000 students. You know, how many universities 60 million kind of like consist of, right?
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point about being the first mover versus following up on that, because I think it is very common to get caught up on the idea of being innovative, like, innovating, disrupting the industry, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's kind of a trendy idea, but I think you do have a really good point that if you are that first person or first company to really disrupt things, really do the first kind of thing for the very first time, then you have to bear the brunt of educating the market on exactly what you're providing that's so revolutionary, convincing people that they need it and that it's not scary or bad because it's an entirely new thing. I can imagine that especially happened within education, right? I imagine people would be very skeptical of learning stuff online at first, and now it's much more accepted, and so it becomes much easier to follow that up. And now I'm curious, since you mentioned sort of, I guess, where this is going with 7 billion people going to end up on one platform or another, I'm curious your thoughts about where you see this all going. Do you see this, because I mean right now, it's started to work, it's started to be accepted, there's this splintering off of all these different companies that are becoming wildly successful doing this. Do you see that as continuing to happen in that way? Or what do you think is going to happen culturally? Do you think there's going to be one company that rises out and sort of takes over everything? Or is there going to be more and more? How do you see that working?
That's another good question. Unfortunately, or let's put it this way, the dream scenario will be that there is diversity of e-learning providers, independent, divided by geography or cultural kind of like a heritage that will give room for multiple opinions and different opinions to flourish. Now, if we consolidate education into one single mega provider, then, there is the thing that says that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. So therefore, I think that basically it will be very worrying to have one single entity or two single entities that basically they are located in California, controlling the whole educational sphere. It will be not a good step forward. So I think that basically we need to diversify e-learning options, and we need to have enough options in order to allow that dialogue and diversity in opinion and thoughts on a global environment.
Yeah, I think that's something that would definitely be ideal, because I suppose you have the trade-off of, if there's one, essentially if you have a monopoly, if a company has a monopoly, they can sometimes have some benefits like economies of scale, but there's, of course, they do have a monopoly, and so that's easy to abuse. And as you mentioned, at the very least culturally, it's sort of kind of like the effect of globalization, right? There's a trend towards like almost a unification of culture, which is cool in one way because people can relate more to each other, but it results in the death of like the separation of different cultures and where all of that comes from. So I think there's definitely a lot of pros and cons there. And how do you see this playing a role in terms of, I guess, traditional education, the K through 12 type stuff? Do you think this is going to become sort of the standard way we teach everybody everything, or is it always going to be supplementary at the college level? How do you see that working in the future?
Well, I like this philosophical discussion. Evolution of the technology and the race related to the technology is speeding up. So what we see now inside our society is that technology and the technological tools, we know how to use them, but we don't know how to make them. And therefore, there is a risk in the long run that by having so much technology around our life, that basically we will be enslaved by the technology itself that we are creating. So therefore, we need to learn faster than before. We need to master new skills and new capabilities. And we need to understand how this technology that appears around us and now appears like magic is actually created in order for us to maintain our individuality in the long run. So the more we understand that, the more awake we become from that particular point of view, the more we will seek to learn. Now, to answer your question, will be that if we are eager to learn, then we will search and find. But if we are not, then most probably we will continue as it is. So it's very difficult to answer your question, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a big, abstract, long-term, hey, predict the future, kind of putting you on the spot type thing. But I think at the very least, it's interesting to think about, to envision, whether it's right or wrong. At the very least, talk about from the perspective of an entrepreneur, as an innovator, being on the front edge of this educational revolution. It's very interesting to think about where this is going, because I think it's a really cool thing. It's something I'm personally very passionate about, because there are so many benefits of what's going on and where this is going. I'm also not very sure about where it's going, but I'm sure it's going to be something very, very interesting. So I'm excited to see how that takes place.
For example, yourself, you are offering these services to teach teachers to, create good quality online courses, right?
Absolutely.
We need people like you. We need people to educate those teachers on how to create good quality courses. So if you go into a supermarket and you don't find what you want, you will not buy anything, right? You will leave the supermarket empty-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So if the teachers, they now kind of like slowly jump into the train of these online educations and create high quality content, and they get support from guys like you, and they start using platforms like Eliademy or the other one that you're using, what is it, Teachable? Fedora?
Yeah, I've used Teachable, which is also called Fedora. Udemy.
Yeah.
There's a bazillion different tools nowadays, but
exactly. So if they use those systems, then most probably there will be content online. The consumer will find something to buy, and therefore he will receive electronic education. So to answer your question is like predicting the future. So I believe strongly that more and more people will seek online education, but I cannot tell that basically all of them will receive online education.
Oh, you don't have your crystal ball out to tell us the future? So now you're running Eliademy, and it's going quite well. And, in contrast to the first time around when you tried to launch an e-learning platform and it failed. So one thing I like to ask people is about a time they felt like a failure and the lessons they learned from that. So whether that was the time that you first launched that e-learning platform before or another time, when was a time that you ran into a large obstacle in your life, and what did you learn from that?
Basically, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's a bad day, and every Tuesday and Thursday, it's a blue sky day. Because an entrepreneur every other day has a challenge, and the day after has an opportunity. I learned quite a bit during the last 2.5 years on how is to manage a startup. And I have made multiple mistakes, from recruitment to specific monetization strategies to marketing messages to almost everything that we have done contain a little bit of failure into it. The most important thing is to have an open mind. Don't give up on your failures. Take your failures and learn and try to find out how you can modify them in order to become a success. And an entrepreneur is someone that he can take a failure, a nothing, and turn it into something important. And if you do that quickly, in the long run, you will be successful. If it takes you enough time to learn, then at least you will have learned something, and then the next time that you will try, you will be better. So I will say that basically entrepreneurship is learning by doing, is a continuous learning journey.
I'd absolutely agree with that. And that's actually one of the things that I personally very much love about it, which is It's always challenging and there's always something to learn. And as you said, it's learning by doing, which I've always found much more enjoyable than focusing on like theory only type stuff, which oftentimes you get in school, for example. So it's very, very challenging. There's lots of failure, but as you said, lots of failure, lots of success. And sometimes the two are very much related, if not the same thing at the end of the day.
But here, Grant, kind of like you pick up something about the future. So if you look into now how the people are learning, some of them, they are learning by seeing and listening. Some of them, they are learning by doing. And there are other various kind of like forms on learning as well. Some people kind of like, in a sense, they do sleep therapy. So they're playing audiobooks while they're sleeping to learn. I don't know how successful that one is, but nevertheless, there are different types of learning methods. And most of the platforms right now, they are focusing on the audio-visual part. So in the coming years, we will see more virtual reality. We will see more simulation type of learning provided by technology, not by exercises provided by the teachers. And those ones, they will be really disruptive because the student will not only suck in data in form of audio and video, but rather play and simulate himself within an environment so he can comprehend the subject even better. Do you understand me what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And you bring up a really interesting point there. An interesting thought experiment would be if you had the technology to basically enable people to create any kind of course that they wanted that operated any way that they wanted, and they were able to create those different things and sort of pit them against each other, see what worked best. It'd be interesting to see the types of things that would come out of that. And inevitably, that's what's going to happen. And specifically to the point that you just said about it's going to be the disruptive types of educational styles that involve, the extreme interactivity. That's one of the things that I'm really, really fascinated about the whole open sourcing, democratizing of education, because there is now actually, and there's going to be an increasing amount of competition between sources of learning. Whereas in the past, if you go all the way back over time, a long time ago, there wasn't much competition between the different sources of higher forms of education, and then started to be a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. But then once it comes online, there's so many different sources that you can learn from. And so then all of a sudden they're pitted against each other in terms of efficacy, in terms of entertainment, engaging people. And I think it's a really great thing because it pushes people to do better, to make better educational products instead of the old droning professor style forever.
Okay, that's a very interesting discussion. Now you're picking up another topic that, look, there are two parameters here that we need to put into the discussion. One is the community versus non-community approach. And the other one is the speed of the internet and the speed of the search engines. So at this point of time, the e-learning companies, they're mainly educating the teachers on how to digitalize their content. The business around that particular content is not that huge. Udemy is making losses, kind of like Coursera. I don't think that they are profitable or anything. I don't know anyone in this business that basically he can claim super kind of like a massive profits. Can you, Grant?
So I was speaking more on the individual level of courses, right? So if a student wants to learn calculus and they're in a college in the 1800s, then they're lucky to be in college at all, and they're happy to learn it from the one person that they can learn it from. Versus now, when they can learn it from a million different sources, basically unlimited different sources, and that competition between those different sources on any given topic, well, of course, the student is going to pick the best one for them based on engagement, based on entertainment, based on how effective it is, based on the ones that they're aware of. And so that's, I suppose I was speaking more on that level versus the competition on the business model level.
On the platform, yeah. Well, exactly. So since now we are educating a massive amount of teachers on embracing these technological tools, right? That means that basically, even on the teacher level, the options, they will be very diverse. So there will be hundreds or even thousands of teachers, which each one will copy the role model, right? The leading teacher, and they will offer the same thing at a cheaper price. So there is only a small time window of opportunity for any teacher to extract premium price out of his knowledge until the others will jump into the same train and start replicating what he does and offering it at a discount price. It's how the market works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on some level it's true of anything. And
take an example of mobile phones, right? In the 90s, you had three main brands. And then in the 2000, you had every single Chinese manufacturer offering you a kind of a mobile phone at a cheaper price.
Mm-hmm. And I forget where I read it, but there was something about if you put something that's a physical good on the market, then like 2 weeks later, there's half a dozen different Chinese manufacturers who've already figured out how to reverse engineer it and produce it for half the price. So
exactly. So that means that basically an e-learning platform that tries to help teachers to monetize needs to be all the time creative and offer multiple monetization options to those teachers. So, for example, in Eliademy, we started with selling the video courses, as with Udemy. Then we saw the Fedora option of having your own shop, and we are offering that now as well. And something that basically none of our competitors is offering is the option of printed certificates. So in essence, you could give a free course on Eliademy, attract thousands of users, and instead of paying them a ticket at the entrance, you can ask them to buy the certificate at the checkout.
You know, I was actually talking to Tommy Griffith, who created the course ClickMinded, about just talking about different strategies to make courses more effective. And then actually that strategy came up. I forget the story he told, who it was about, but it was basically about a course that one of the biggest breakthroughs they had was when they started offering official looking certificates, even though of course it's not necessarily endorsed by something like a Harvard. Just the ability to give people some kind of certificate, some kind of feeling that they've literally accomplished something. I've printed this out, I put it on my wall, like I've accomplished this, I've done this, and it dramatically increased the perceived value of the course. So that's an awesome thing. And in terms of customer feedback of the different things that you offer, what are instructors most happy about? What are they most excited about?
We get on daily basis multiple thank yous from our community. And the words that they are using, if I can use their own words, is simple, no hassle, good service, practical. Those are the words that our own users use to describe Eliademy. So it's simplified authoring tool. You can do multiple things. You can do quizzes, you can do tests, you can do a course only in text or only in video or only in SoundCloud, like podcasts. You can issue digital certificates to LinkedIn. You can issue printed certificates in a high quality paper with watermarks, holograms, serial numbers, and so on. So live web seminars, the same way that you do them with Adobe Connect. You can have your own shop. So basically, it's a very solid platform and helps the teachers to configure it the way that they want to deliver the course. It could be private, could be public, could be invitation only. So we cover so many of their needs that basically our attrition rate in the user base is very, very small.
Great stuff. And I'm sure you have kind of an idea about the core set of features or capabilities of your platform that really drive it home for people. So for example, if you were to start over from scratch, given what you know now, and you were to start this company again, and you were to create that MVP, I guess like you did the first time, but this time given what you know now, what would be the core set of features, I suppose, that you would build it around in terms of the value proposition there to really still drive it home for people if it was an MVP?
You are asking me to go back in time. At that particular point of time, this particular MVP and how it has evolved, it was the right choice. If you ask me to start today, I wouldn't even bother building it.
Really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because I think that you need to think the next step, right? So, I mean, Eliademy as is right now is doing very well. It's building a global community, and all the teachers together, they can have a benefit out of that, right? But if you ask me to, what kind of if I was starting Eliademy 2015 and how I would have built it, I would have built it around codes into what you are searching on Google.
Interesting. So how do you mean by that?
I mean that basically go one step even beyond the teacher, going into a digital mentor where you program that digital mentor to make your whole internet experience a learning experience.
Interesting. So what would that look like? So say I search calculus. Like, I guess what's the kind of picture that you're painting for us?
Well, it would have been something that like a diary where I go and I explain my personal objectives as an individual, what do I want to learn and what I dream about becoming, and what are my weak points, making a self-evaluation of my knowledge. And based on those parameters, in essence, every time that I search into Google or every time I browse through Facebook, the system rearranges and shows me content that is relevant to the weak points that basically I want to improve.
Nice. That's a really interesting idea. I suppose that's to some extent similar to the way that Google does that with search results based on geography, for example. If you're logged in.
Yeah, exactly, Grant. That's precisely. So you see, this technology, I don't think that is yet ready available. If anyone out there kind of gives me the crap related to artificial intelligence, I will become furious because there is no such a thing.
Yes.
Not yet.
Skynet's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, like the pizza that I order on Sunday. But you could, in essence, utilize the silly marketing targeting algorithms that we have right now in order to make product associations based on your interest and reinvent that in order to offer you a learning experience.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I hope that falls into the category of inevitable innovation.
If anyone wants to build this, I'm ready for it. And that's entrepreneurship. You do it within Eliademy. You do it in cooperation with intelligent people out there, and you create a mutual interest. That's how we build a new world, through collaboration.
For sure. So, what are some things that you're looking at building for yourself in your own life, in your own business? What are some things that you're working on that you're excited about for you?
Personally, you mean, right?
Personally, or your business, either Eliademy or things you're personally building,
okay.
anything like that.
Yeah, so for Eliademy, the roadmap is that within the next 10 years, we have built a global community that it has a solid percentage. So it's not 0.5% of the global community, but it has a solid percentage. 1% or 5%, 5% would have been extremely happy, but even aiming at 1% at those 60 million users by 2025, I will be extremely happy. And I think that taking the marathon approach rather than the sprint approach, going step by step without rushing, it's going to take us there. The math, the calculations on the trends of the users show us that basically we will be reaching that particular amount of users by that particular day. Not very exciting pitch story for any investor that basically wants to hear that, I'm going to give you 60 million users tomorrow, give me 500 million now. But you remember that child story between the turtle and the rabbit?
Yeah, tortoise and the hare.
That's right. So basically, I'm doing the turtle here.
Good stuff. So what are the strategies that you're leveraging to actually grow your community?
The strategies, basically, we put a lot of effort in the very beginning to spread the Eliademy message. And now it spreads on its own, effortless. So from the 1,000 users that are registered into Eliademy on daily basis, none of them were acquired by paid advertisement. None of them got acquired by email campaigns. None of them they got acquired because of some growth hacking techniques. 100% of them, they came into the platform because an individual user recommended the service to them.
Interesting. So it's all based on referral.
All based on referral.
So there's
100%.
no content marketing strategies, no like giveaways, nothing promotional at all.
No whatsoever. No.
That's crazy. That's speaks a lot about your product, that you can rest on the laurels of the quality of it, and rest assured people will continue to refer it to other people, so that it'll grow organically. That's really great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. I think that basically people see the goodness into what we do. Now, the problem with that one is that basically you cannot monetize very fast with this. Because if you try to monetize very fast, you will agitate the community that you have established. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely that immediate negative karma almost as you try to monetize further.
That's right. So you have to take it very, very slowly and very, very calmly, and have a dialogue with the community. How can we make the business sustainable? Since you get a benefit out of the service, how can we make the business sustainable so you can enjoy the service, but then make sure that basically can run for the long run? And once you pose that question to your community, then good ideas, they are coming over. And may I remind you that Google, when they introduced Google, they didn't have any monetization plan. They just let it roll. And then later, they gather ideas on how to monetize it. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely the long-term growth kind of approach.
Yeah. So I have people now coming to me and say, oh, we are pissed off with Udemy and XYZ service. And I say, why? Because they are good service providers. And they're saying they're so much aggressive on the money that basically people are saying, like, come on.
Yep. It's especially true of Udemy,
it's
actually.
Like, think about it. Now, you go and buy a course on Udemy, and for the rest of your life, you will have the weekly campaigns of get another course at 50% discount. You're 24, until 54, that's 30 years. And multiply that by the weeks, and multiply how many times you're going to see that message from Udemy in order to buy a course. I bet that in 2-3 years, you will erase them from your mailbox. You will say, I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah, actually, I already have a filter that I set up many years ago to archive it. But
exactly. So you see, when you're building a community, you can go very fast for the cash, and you will annoy them. You will not become a long-term friend with them. But when you build a community that is, for 10 years, for 20 years down the road, then you go slowly, you build a friendship with them, you build a relationship of a symbiotic environment where you don't make the, huge filthy amount of cash, but you are making a steady income that is good enough for you, is good enough for the service, is good enough for the ecosystem. And this is the mentality that we have at Eliademy.
Nice. And I suppose I have heard that a lot of startups, like, for example, a lot of other course platforms, they have the mindset and the methodology of, okay, we know we're pushing really hard. We know we're being really salesy and annoying to some of our users, and we're losing a certain amount of users, but we're going to work our butts off and growth hack our way to obtaining more customers than we're losing by pushing so hard. And I think, at the very least in the short term, that does work, but it definitely taints your brand image and does burn a lot of bridges, because I know a lot of people, for example, who are very jaded and annoyed and complain incessantly, specifically about Udemy. And so I think that's a byproduct of taking that sort of short-term approach and seeing it as a numbers game rather than actually thinking about the people behind those numbers that are your customers. And just thinking, oh, well, if we get 10 customers and we lose 5, it's still okay, right? But at the end of the day, that's kind of a short win and a long loss.
Yeah, well, I have a respect for Udemy for the thing that basically the founders, they started. Now, of course, the investors, they have got in and they're trying to get their money back. But yes, the story that you described me before, it was like, when I was a kid and playing in a sandbox. And, I was building the castle in the sand, and then the water was coming from the sea, destroying one part of it. And I said, okay, don't worry, there is so much sand, I can build another tower next to it. So if you don't build the right foundation based on the right reasons and the right motives, you will always have that question and dilemma, like, okay, we are not monetizing fast enough. But if you balance your reasons and your objectives with something that makes you feel good, then the need for cash or the need for revenue is balanced with the thing that makes you feel better.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that. Maybe it's kind of based on individual preference and psychology, but yeah, I think personally, at least, if I was pushing like, oh, just make as much money as possible, doesn't matter what, doesn't matter how, doesn't matter the effects I have on people, I'd get burnt out really quick on doing that.
Correct.
So I think you're right. It's absolutely a balance in terms of what you're actually accomplishing, the sort of karmic effects of what you're doing versus actually how much money you're making as a result of that. You have to put food on the table with the money, but at the end of the day, it's really about, are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Are you having a great effect on the world at large?
I have never seen a man or a woman that basically wants to put money down on the table and he's not able to do that. For me, there is always a way to do that. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And we finish up this interview is a good one I like to end on, which is, what are you most excited about right now?
Most excited about right now. Right now, I'm most excited about multiple things. Personally, I'm having a target, a book reading target that I have to reach for the end of this year, and prepare my book reading list for the 2016. So I'm trying to upgrade my brain software by reading books and taking courses online, of course. And I'm very excited on preparing my training program for 2016. I'm a strong believer of continuous learning. So that is one exciting thing that is going on right now. So I have added subjects like geometry and money, or geometry and philosophy, and subjects related to crowdsourcing and the sharing economy and the mechanics of the collaborative economy, the political implications on that, and so and so. From the Eliademy point of view, I'm very much excited with our user growth and the referrals, and looking into the 2016 roadmap, the exciting things that we will bring, such as more advanced private shop for individuals like you to sell your courses, more versions of Eliademy in languages like Georgian and Azerbaijani and all these developing countries. Already the platform is localized in 26, so we are looking into localizing it into even further more languages. Additional elements related to monetization by giving the opportunity to teachers like you to sell their books online with us. So not only the printed certificates, but also the option to print on demand a booklet and sell it to the student, or get a commission from a recommended book in Amazon.com, which will be the 2016 monetization element that we will give to the community. And we are looking to, grow the service to approximately 500,000 to 700,000 users within 2016. And that's going to be a very exciting moment for us, because we will be close to 1 million users, real users, not some funny numbers that many startups report nowadays, but real close to that number. And that will be a very exciting moment for us.
Well, congratulations on all of the different success that you've seen with Eliademy, and I'm excited to see where it goes for you. If people want to find out more about you or Eliademy, where should they go?
Well, they should go into eliademy.com. I have my own personal blog that I'm writing my ideas and my philosophies into www.sotirism. It's like sotirism.com, but basically that's a personal blog. And my kind of like a wish is that basically we want you into Eliademy. We want to make partnership with you. I think that you're a brilliant, you had a brilliant idea. I think we need people like you to educate the teachers all around the globe how to digitalize their content, how to make money with their courses online, but also how they can kind of like spread knowledge online without kind of like getting money, but good karma points, as you mentioned. So we need to continue this discussion and see how we can cooperate in other levels. And once again, thank you for inviting me into this podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to talking to you further about that. And just a quick shout out to anybody who's listening who might have a little bit of difficulty with the spelling of Eliademy or Sotiris. Just go to myepodcast.com and look into the show notes. We'll have all the links there, so you don't have to worry about spelling it correctly. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Grant, and thank you very much for your audience.
Hey entrepreneurs and experts, I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you learned at least one new big idea that helps you evolve your skills and gets you closer to monetizing your expertise and creating that successful knowledge business. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and Stitcher, and check out myepodcast.com for all episodes as well as the tips and tricks mentioned in this episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.